I'm so glad to be here. I mean, in my life, I'm very honored always follow the footsteps of Thien Ho. So therefore, today, there's no exception. Because of Thien, and then because of our friendship, I got involved in the community. And Thien very early, and then really breakthrough into the mainstream America as Asian Americans. He was the board director of United Way, and we in United Way have a lot of challenge. And he's selected to be on the American Leadership Forum. It's a very difficult forum, fellowship you can get in. He got in, and then he drafted me, and then I followed that too. And then he went to UC Berkeley, and then I went to UC Berkeley, and then he got to say he's a friend of Andrew's father. Well, put it this way, I was there when Andrew's father is in the more advanced classes. So therefore, I would say in this world, we need friends, and we need mentors, and we need inspiration. The inspiration is that when Andrew Yang really bulldoze and then stand up for what is right and then what is needed, and then he just go ahead and charge. Why? And that, and I observe, and I really that he have a lot of commitment. He really feel that this country need new leadership, new ideas, and a lot of time we become not so relevant, and he just want us to be more relevant. He just want us to move forward, not right, not left, but forward. And this is exactly, I think the forward movement is going to be very influential because of this. So I'm so glad to see you all. First, I will say, I always, when I see people running for office, then I always say, hey, I always very admire of that. The admiration is, you're going into a situation of a lot of commitment, a lot of hard work, and a lot of sacrifices. To run for office, a lot of times, the most fearful thing that I always dread is you're basically losing a lot of your privacy. You're giving up privacy a lot, and also at the same time, you're giving up a career for professional career or economic future, whatever, for something that you think that is the right thing to do. Not for popularity, not for enrichment of yourself, but rather giving what you have to the community. So therefore, when I met Lanhee, he was here actually in the panel, and I really admire his intellectual capability. He's running for the state controller. It's a really high order. And then really he felt that he had the capacity. Now I met Aarika, I wish her luck, not because because of this gathering, but rather have the commitment to represent. I just say hello to Thien Ho, and I just we have some common thread also. I have my secondary junior high school in Vietnam also with film. And then also after college, I spent 3 years in Vietnam also. I came out in 1975. So therefore, that is where the exodus of a lot of Vietnamese and create a tremendous Vietnamese community in the United States. And they are really a very powerful contributor of the society. And in order to do that, that means that Asian Americans will count. During the last century, we have to call the Atlantic move. And this century is really the influence of the Pacific. Asian Americans, I always thought Asian American in 2020 is about 23 million. But the reason 2020 census said Asian American of 26 million. And then the Pew research said maybe in less than 20 years, Asian American will account for 40 million people. That's more than 10% of the United States population. That is a very, very big, a formidable force. That means that the Asian Americans is among, in the United States, the highest educated, the most dedicated. 52% of Asian Americans now are college graduates, compared to the national average of 35. And then for the, the other minority group is between 18 to 22%. And then also in the whole history of the United States, from beginning to end, it's always about new immigrants, the first generation and second generation, that were the hardest. By the third generation, I think life is too good. So therefore, basically, it's us. It is the pioneer spirit of the immigrant, first generation and second generation. They are going to contribute to the country. I think it's a lot of times when we are going to say, hey, we want to have more power, we want to have more equal treatment, I would say it is coming from getting. But somehow right now, Asian American is about time to really to serve, to give, and to direct, and really push forward for a better United States. I would say the reason why a lot of times I say I'm not really putting it down on third and fourth generation, but somehow life is too good. The world right now is more become more flat than ever. So every country and every place, when they really work hard, they will eventually bypass. I would say the first industrial revolution is a steam engine about 250 years ago that made the Europe really moving up. And then the second industrial revolution is electricity. That is the time the USA catch up. And the third one is computer. And right now, artificial intelligence, robotic, and all those automation and all the big data whatsoever require significant commitment in education, in investment, in everything we have to embrace. The world is changing. So therefore, basically, we have to look forward. I think this is why this is very important, that I think it's just the inspiration and the book on the table about forward is very important to us. I think it will make a lot of difference because not only that it is an idea, but it could make a lot of influence, especially when I observe when Andrew said, I'm going to Georgia, I'm going to Atlanta. That makes so much difference because of that very close Senate race, a very small percentage, very, very minute percentage. But the Asian, I remember, is something like represent 2.6, 2.7% of the vote. 1.7% voting for the new senator. So therefore, it could make a lot of difference. And then what I was feel what Forward Party is us, that if people feel that is the difference that really will put the country forward, that difference will make an impact and will make United States a better one, and then we're looking forward to it.
Right. Thank you for your sharing, especially your insight of Forward Party. Well, the next keynote speaker, he's the reason why we're here. He's a father, he's a husband, he's a true entrepreneur. He's a forever historically record breaker, that first Asian American presidential candidate in 2018. Please welcome Mr. Andrew Yang. Let's give him our California welcome. Woo!
Thank you everyone. It's so great to be back in the Bay Area. Yes. I have so many wonderful relationships and ties and memories to this place. Many of you know my parents met at UC Berkeley. How many other UC Berkeley folks are there here today? I knew it. My brother is named after the Lawrence Observatory, and I used to joke that maybe my parents had some special special memories. And my parents loved the Bay Area. They did not want to leave. The background for my folks was that my dad was trying to get a job here in California as a PhD in physics. And he and his advisor didn't get along. My dad's kind of ornery. He's not very personable. So he was a hard time getting a job because his advisor was not giving him good recs, was what was happening. And so then his advisor went away for a little while, and my father then interviewed at GE in Schenectady, New York. And then GE reached out to his advisor to get a reference, and they couldn't get a hold of him. And then they said, all right, I guess we'll give this guy an offer. So that's why I was born in Schenectady, New York, because that's where my dad got that job. But when I was running for president, I cannot tell you how many times people would refer to me as California entrepreneur, Andrew Yang. And I always took it as a compliment because the cool Asians are from California. And so I took it, I was like, oh good, I think they have a West Coast vibe, and I guess I'll take it, who cares? You know, like I wasn't out for correcting the record every time. I'm so grateful to the people who are here today who really helped build a foundation for the Asian American community in politics. People like Xing Hong and Sandy Chau have been doing the work for a long time. And I remember coming here as a candidate. I declared for the presidency in February 2018. Many of you remember that. And if you are Asian American, you probably had one thought, well, two thoughts. One, Asian guy running for president. And two, please let him not be terrible. So I came out here to talk to Sandy and Xing Hong and whatnot, and I could tell they were trying to figure out, it's like, hey, is this person going to uplift our community? Is this going to be a net positive? And when they concluded that I would, it was such a wonderful feeling. And that is the feeling that we have to impart to the other candidates who are running for comptroller and Congress in Los Angeles and district attorney in Sacramento County. Because as someone who's been a candidate, it is so much work. Like, you're always putting yourself out there over and over again. And then when someone embraces you the way that this community embraced me, it's a wonderful feeling. It's invigorating, it helps you keep going. And I want to talk a little bit about each of the candidates today, because I've been there. So Lanhee and I have been friends for a number of years. You may have seen Lanhee on television. How many of you have seen Lanhee on NBC or MSNBC or one of those Meet the Press type things? And you probably had also the same thought I did, which is like, ooh, Asian guy on NBC. This is exciting, let's hear what he has to say. You Google him, you're like, oh, Stanford professor, very, very impressive, very fancy. So Lanhee and I'm going to say, I feel like we have a lot in common. I'm complimenting myself a little bit because Lanhee's a very, very impressive man. He's running for comptroller of the state of California as a Republican. That's right? All right, good stuff. And this is a blue state, but the case that he's making is that if you have a democratically run legislature, you kind of might want a Republican comptroller making sure that they're not doing anything funny with the money, which is a pretty reasonable case to make, I think. I think it's a very powerful case. The fact that Lanhee is running for this office is truly an act of service on his part. He's got a phenomenal family and career, and so crisscrossing this country to make his case for comptroller is something he's doing just because he believes he can contribute at the highest levels of the state. And knowing Lanhee, he is 100% right. He can contribute at the highest levels of the state. So let's help him win, am I right? Aarika Rhodes and I have also known each other for years because Aarika was one of the superstar Yang Gang volunteers on the trail. So Aarika is the daughter of a Black and Vietnamese couple and is a school teacher who has decided to run for Congress against a longtime Democratic incumbent who no one likes. It's one of those stories, you know what I mean? You know that guy who's just around and the people stop questioning it? It's like, oh, that guy, sure, why not? He hasn't had any true competition. And Aarika has inspired the surge of hope and affection. People in her community are like, wait a minute, this could be our representative? This young, vibrant, charismatic public servant who actually is here on the ground with us as opposed to hanging out in whatever office Brad Sherman is hanging out in. So Aarika got behind me in my campaign because she is passionate about universal basic income. She thinks that poverty is something that we can address. She also has become a champion of Bitcoin and various Web3 technologies as a way that we can combat poverty, and just did a Twitter Spaces with the former CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey. So let's give Aarika a massive round of applause. I'll tell you all, Aarika will win her race if she has the money to get the message out. That's really the only variable. If you actually had a straight up race between her and Brad, she wins every time. The only issue is that Brad's got the name recognition and some financial resources. So if we get Aarika the money she needs, we're going to be celebrating the first Yang Gang member of Congress, and I'm going to do everything I can to help make that happen. And to the extent that I've inspired people like her to run for office, it's like the proudest thing in my life. I mean, so I grew up the son of Taiwanese immigrants, and they were definitely not pushing me or my brother to go into politics. You know, for those of you who have parents that resemble that, you probably also were not getting that message. Lanhee, were you getting that message? No, you were not. And so for the people who decide to run for office from the Asian American community, I feel like they're really pushing against the grain in a particular way, you know what I mean? And a lot of the barriers are internal at first. As the child of immigrants myself, the message I got was, get good grades, keep your head down, get a good job, succeed economically, and try and make a place in this country. And I took that to heart, sort of. You know, I heard that, I was like, oh, but there was this instinct I had that my parents came here and sacrificed so much for my brother and me, that we had to have something of a higher purpose than simply making sure that we could provide for ourselves and our families. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt talked about how you need to be able to provide for yourself and your family before you start doing the other things, but I always thought we should try and have higher ambitions. And for me, the single biggest step I took in that direction was starting a nonprofit, which required me to go out there and pound the pavement and raise money in a particular way. But there's all this resistance, I believe, around us thinking that we can be that leader, that politician, that CEO, that person who's the front. So you have this internal resistance, and then unfortunately you encounter the internal resistance of other Asian Americans too. Because when someone decides to run for office from the Asian American community, what are they met with a lot of the time? Skepticism, apathy, dubiousness. You know what I mean? It's not like Asian Americans like, oh, one of us is running, let's all do it. They also have internalized the message that we should keep our heads down and that politics may or may not be the path to success. So that is what we have to try to break. The people here tonight, you all have already broken this in various ways, but you know people who are not in this room who have that attitude that we have to bring along. Am I right? Yeah, so for every person here, you need to get 5 other people to pay attention to Lanhee's race, to Aarika's race, and to Thien's race, so that we can change the culture of what Asian Americans think is possible for us in this country. It's one of the things I was proudest of, is trying to show that, look, there is no reason why we can't be standing on stage debating Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren to be president of the United States. There's absolutely no reason why these three candidates can't win their races if we all get behind them. If we get behind them, all things become possible. If we can show our community what can happen if we become a genuine political force in this country, then all of a sudden it will click. And then the next generation will take it for granted. Now, Thien's story is awesome. He came here as a refugee from Vietnam. Where's Thien at? Oh, there he is. Also want to recognize Thien's incredible wife, Jenny. So Jenny, they have 3 teenage kids, and you know Jenny's putting up with a lot if Thien's running for office. I mean, I try and thank my wife every chance I get. But Thien has an incredible story, came here as a refugee from Vietnam, didn't speak much English or any English, learned English from watching TV, became not just a college graduate, but an attorney, and now is one of the assistant district attorneys in Sacramento County, where he's been putting people behind bars for a long time. When you think about those figures on TV, the prosecutors, you know, those TV prosecutors, that is him in real life. You know what I mean? And now he wants to take the next level and represent the county as district attorney, and I'm sure he would do an exceptional job if we can get him into office. So let's do it. I'm a numbers person. We all donated money to be here. We have to dig deeper. If you think you did your part by paying a certain amount of money and coming here and having a good time, no, that is not it at all. That is just the beginning. What you've done is you've anteed up, and now you have to make sure that you pile in behind Lanhee, behind Aarika, behind Thien, to make sure that they have the resources they need to get the message out, contend, compete, and win. I am sick and tired of Asian Americans being like, hey, nice try. No, we are here to win, am I right? They will not win and we will not win if we do not sacrifice at a certain level. There are people here who can write a max check to each of these candidates and forget about it the next day. And if that resembles you, you should max out to each of these candidates. If you know someone who is not here today, who you know owes you a favor, just ping them and say, hey, here's a candidate, just support them, and if you have any questions, you can ask me about it. We have to do more. This is the leadership that our community requires. You did this for me, and I love you for it, and we need you to do this for the next generation of candidate to make sure that this country understands that we are not here to survive, we are not here to live, we are here to win. So grateful to be here with you all tonight, and it may seem like this country is struggling right now, and it is. It genuinely is. It's not faring well. It's one reason why I have taken the steps that I've taken in terms of starting the Forward Party and these other things. Polarization is getting worse and worse. And I believe that our community represents a natural middle ground where we're not typically that ideological. What are we? We're practical, we're solutions oriented, we just want things to work better. There are so many people that want the exact same thing if we can just deliver that kind of leadership to our communities with candidates like these leading the way. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Andrew.